everybody, and welcome to tonight's episode of Rise Up, Ignite Your Life. And my name is Krista Fee, and tonight's guest is retired Sergeant Mark DiBono, and he is retired from a 33-year career, and he is co-founder of Protecting the Guardian. So he's going to talk a little bit about his life and his experiences, and he's also going to tell you guys about how he has turned his life into serving others. So if you guys could just give us a nice warm welcome. Hello.
Hello. How are you, everybody?
I'm so happy to have you here tonight. The past few days, I have been meeting so many people in our little tiny circle. And I say little tiny circle because there's 50 of us maybe running around the country going to all of these conventions and seminars. Right. And we see each other all the time. And it's almost a little family, but it's very, very slowly growing. So this tidal wave of movements on the topic of post-traumatic stress and redoing these systems and structures that we're struggling with so much. So just to get things going, why don't you tell us a little bit about your service and your career and what that was like for you?
Okay. Well, first of all, it's an honor to be here. So thank you so much for inviting me. I truly appreciate that. And you're right. It is a small circle that needs to get bigger and bigger, and it will within time. Absolutely will in time, because we need advocates like us to understand mental health illness and the cliche phrase of it's okay not to be okay. I think that's a little overused right now, but that's okay, because if it's getting the word out, then I'm fine with it being overused. I began my career right outside of Boston, a town called Braintree, June 6, 1985. And to put a little cop humor into that, it was on a Friday that I was sworn in, and the first Friday of June is National Donut Day. So and I love donuts. So I don't know if that was just meant to be or what, but all my life I wanted to be a cop. It's just ever since I can remember watching all the cop shows on TV. And it was just, I just wanted to be a cop. And when June 6, 1985, when I became a cop, was one of the greatest moments of my life. I did 8 years in Massachusetts. I did a town called Braintree right outside of Boston. Then I moved on to the Amtrak police. And a lot of people don't realize Amtrak has a police department. And I did 5 years there. Then my wife and we decided to move to Florida. I worked for a small town called Avon Park. This is my Boston accent coming out. Avon Park. And I worked there a year. Then I went into the Seminole County Sheriff's Office for 25 years, where I retired in 2019. April 1st, April Fool's Day, I retired. I retired as a patrol sergeant. And in my career, I did quite a bit. I was a public information officer. I was a field training officer. I was an academy instructor, in-service instructor, driving instructor. Teaching was really my second career choice was I wanted to be a teacher. So teaching at the police academy kind of was the best of both worlds. But one thing I never realized was when I first started my career that here I would be in 2022 on Memorial Day. And thank you to our service. I truly appreciate our service members. This is what Memorial is about, is not to honor the ones that made the ultimate sacrifice. So thank you. Thank you so much. But I never realized that here we are on Memorial Day in 2022. I'd be talking about mental health wellness, suicide prevention. But I never thought that I would obtain a mental health issue from the job, and also from my childhood experiences that we're going to probably talk about in a little while. And it was a great career. It really was. I loved being a cop. In my opinion, it's probably the greatest job in the world. But I also knew it was time to go. It was time to move on from the job. And that was a tough thing. That was a tough decision to make with the guidance of my wife and God. I think I know I made the right decision. And it was just a great career, but it was just time to move on. I was able to grow my hair long, grow a beard. I'm into rock and roll, into music. I play the guitar and keyboards, not that well, but I play, and that's such a great stress relief. And believe it or not, growing my hair long has helped my mental health wellness. Believe it or not, because I used to wear my hair very short, high and tight, very military style, and I love the long hair, and I love life.
You re-identified yourself. One of
Yeah.
the
Bingo,
Yeah,
bingo. Yep.
one of the big things about that career is it becomes your identity. So you were a cop. Now you're Mark,
Right.
and you've
Yeah,
been
yeah.
fully.
Right, and it's almost from one extreme to the other, almost to a point, because as you know, in law enforcement, we live a very structured life, very structured career. We're hyper vigilant. We're pretty much cops 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and a lot of times that becomes your identity. And it's very hard for a lot of people to let that go and to move on from it. And I'm not gonna lie, I struggled at first also during my first probably month or two after retirement. But then I said to myself, I've got to move on from this. I've got to enjoy my career, enjoy my pension, but more so enjoy life and put the bad times behind, but learn from those bad times also. And again, it was a great run being a cop, but life couldn't be any better right now. I truly mean that when I say that.
Beautiful. So you have Marshall Lord saying hello.
I know, Marshall. How you doing, my brother?
Just wanted to let you know that he is here commenting.
All
Uh,
right.
so you mentioned your childhood, and that is something that I'm trying to get more people to talk about. That there are some risk factors that we need to look at when we go into these helping professions. And one of the structures that our organization is trying to work on is actually doing some testing, doing some ACE, doing some education before someone is hired onto the job. That just so you know, these are things that may impact whether you get PTSD or not, and you might want to watch for signs and symptoms. So I was a victim of childhood sexual abuse, and I know that affected my work in the emergency room. So did your childhood affect your career?
It did. It did. I'm also a survivor of child sexual abuse, also, and my abuser was actually a police officer. Um, and as we know, sexual abusers are also bullies, and they bully you and they make you do things that you obviously don't want to do, and honestly do some nasty stuff. And nobody should be subject of that abuse, because it will affect you mentally and obviously physically, also with the physical pain, but also the mental pain that comes with it. I was able to, maybe I shouldn't use the word able. I was in denial that happened to me. It lasted for quite a while, probably 3 or 4 years, if not longer. And when I became a cop, when I went to sexual abuse calls, it would trigger me, and I would get very angry. And I'll be honest with you, a little bit angry at the victim also. Um, and I thought to myself, why is this happening? Why am I like mad at this? I have to be a professional. I have to go in there, investigate this crime, make the arrest, write the report, whatever needs to be done. But I had a sense of anger, and what I thought was really strange was, and I didn't know this till afterwards, was when I was on the call, I used to get short of breath. I would feel chest pains, and obviously that's a panic attack. And that was very difficult for me to understand that. And then when I through therapy, and I realized that we say, people say you're a victim, but we're survivors of this. We're survivors, and we're warriors. And that's why I want everybody to hear that sexual abuse is uncalled for. It's nasty. It's wrong, but we can move on from it. We can rise up from it and show people, hey, listen, yeah, I understand how you feel. And that's one thing I've always learned when I was a cop, is I never said to anybody, I know how you feel, unless I actually experienced that experience. And I was able to say to victims of sexual abuse that I do understand how you feel. It took a lot to do that. It really did. And that came towards the ender part of my career, where I was able to speak about it and talk about it. And it's a very powerful thing to speak about it and to move on from it and rise up from it. And I think that's something that cops have to understand, that it can happen to anybody, and less of a person if it did happen to you or not.
So you went through a phase when your logical mind and your emotions weren't totally making sense to you early on in your career because you didn't know where that was coming from.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I knew. I mean, obviously, I knew it happened, but I just pushed it aside because I pushed it aside for several reasons. Number one is we as cops we're supposed to be tough guys, tough girls, and nothing bothers us. We're helpers. We're not helpies. And so I pushed it aside for that reason. The embarrassment, also the anger, the so I pushed it aside, and how it came to surface was I was talking to my wife about it one time, and she's also a survivor of sexual abuse, and we started talking about it. We became very open about it. We did have conversations in the past about it, but not to the conversation where we're like, okay, let's get better from this, and let's not dwell on this, and let's get better from it. So it was difficult. It was extremely difficult. But I understood that it did happen to me, and I'm not going to go around being pissed off and why me, or anything like that. Like I said earlier, my abuser was a police officer, and that was very, very difficult. It was a man that my mother was dating, and I never told my mom about it. I grew up in a single parent home. My mother has since passed away. My mother to this day has I'm sure she's looking down at me right now, hearing me talk about this. But I never told her that because I didn't want to hurt her. I didn't want her to blame herself for it, that she brought this person into our family. And it's not her fault. Definitely not her fault.
So we don't talk about marriage very often on this show because marriage is such a challenging thing for officers. But if I heard you correctly, you're still with your wife that you were with in the beginning?
Right. I don't have a typical cop marriage. I'm married. I've been married to the same woman. A lot of cops are married 2 or 3 times. I've been married for almost 31 years. We've been together for almost 36 years. I couldn't ask for a better person. She's been with me through the best times, and I put her through some very, very difficult times I would like to change, but I know I can't. But she stood by me through the best of times and the worst of times. I couldn't be any more blessed when I say that. I mean, truly, truly blessed.
So how did you manage to stay with your wife?
Being open. I'm sorry, being open with her. A lot of people say that in the cop world, don't go home and tell your other half about what happened. My wife's a nurse. Did several years in the emergency room. There's trauma right there, obviously. And I just had that. One thing I failed at was I put the job ahead of her several times. And I'll be the first to admit that I failed in that. I totally failed in that. We'd have a weekend off, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to go work an extra shift. I'm going to go work an off-duty job to make some extra money. Hey, listen, they're short-handed. I should probably go in. I would pull up my laptop and check my emails and do things while we're eating dinner on our nights off. And that's not healthy. That's not healthy. That's the mistakes I made. But on the plus side, that was I did realize that my wife was going to be with me through thick and thin. We talked off air. I use this line all the time. You may love the job, but the job doesn't love you. My wife loves me, and she takes me for what I am. Did the job love me? Well, maybe to a point it did. But who do I go home with? Who do I cry with? Who do I hold at night? Who am I going to spend the rest of my life with, for better or for worse? Is my wife. And if I looked at that back in my career, not that I never had my marriage had up and downs like any other marriage, but I think it would have been a lot better if I put my wife as priority number one.
So it's really, really awesome that you say being open with your wife was one of the keys, because another thing that we're trying to change is this whole idea that, like you said, we don't go home and bring work home, but there's a way to bring it how you're feeling home, and a way to have those conversations where you're not just dumping on your partner and saying, oh, well, I saw a dad that shot his kid in the face today. You don't have to do that, but you can go home and say, honey, I had a really rough day, and I'd really just like to express that, I'm struggling a little bit. Can we just sit here together? Can we just co-regulate? Can we just share our emotions a little bit. Can you just hold me right now? I just need to know that you're here with me to help me through this.
Right, and I agree, and absolutely, and I'll add to that. It's okay to cry with your other half also, and let those tears flow. Show your emotions, and then also have your spouse understand. Well, maybe I need a little alone time right now, also, and be respectful for that. I'm gonna go sit by the pool for a couple of minutes. Or I'm gonna go for a walk. I'm gonna go to the gym or whatever. And my wife was she always had my back. I would go home and I would go home from work angry sometimes, angry at the agency, angry at some bosses, angry at the public. And I probably took my frustrations out on her verbally. And that was not fair to her. But my one thing, my wife is a very, very understanding person and a very calming person. I wish I could control my emotions like she controls hers sometimes. Now I'm sure during time she probably went, are you serious? But yeah, go home and talk to your other half and say, listen, I had a really bad day at work today. Oh, this is what I saw. And you're right. Hold me. And let's turn off the TV and let's just talk. Put all the outside influences on hold right now. Your phone can go on vibrate. Your TV can be turned off. And have some alone time. And that's one thing I did with my wife is I was very open with communication. So was she, and that was good. But there was a point where I didn't communicate too well with her. And again, like I said earlier, I'm kind of regretting that. I am regretting that, I should say.
I've also noticed the best relationships in the police department seem to be those who happen to have married another first responder because they get it.
Yeah, they do. They absolutely do. They understand the traumas of the job. They understand the functions of the job. Absolutely. But sometimes it's not bad to have an outside influence also. I don't want to say they don't understand the job because every other half, every spouse understands the job. Absolutely, they understand the job. I mean, I never spent a day in nursing school, but I seen what my wife went through. I saw the trauma it affected her. And I was always there to support her and for her traumas also. But that first responder relationship, it kind of takes it up a notch a little bit because they truly understand the trauma of the job.
And the demands.
Yes.
On your time,
Yes.
your energy, and
yes.
It's harder to get it out of your head the second you get home. So there's decompress time.
Right. Yeah, like a lot of people. Which I never could do was I worked with a lot of guys and girls that as soon as they got home, they would take a quick shower and they crawl into bed like within a half an hour. My head was still racing, from the and I was on nights by choice. I liked working the night shift, but I needed time to decompress. Whether it was just put the TV on, listen to some music, or like that. So having a first responder spouse, they can understand the decompression also.
So we have Thomas Gillen, I believe that's the last name, says, Mark, thank you for your honesty and your friendship. And then Marshall says, it's reassuring there are success stories. The job cost me 2 marriages.
Wow. Well, first of all, Marshall, that's amazing that you say that. That takes a lot to say that. And Tom, wow, we've been friends for, I'm going to show my age, for years and years and years. And Tom is another one that really, really gets mental health wellness. He really gets it. So does Marshall also. 2 guys that really understand that.
So you were on the force for a very long span of time. Did you notice any changes over that period of time? Like, is it getting harder to be an officer? Are people starting to be better at supporting the mental health of the police? What did you notice over the course of that 30 years?
Well, I did notice that police work, it goes up and down. And what I mean by up and down is sometimes there's a lot of support for the police, and then an incident happens, and a lot of people just jump on the bandwagon and start hating the police, which is wrong in so many ways. Now, are there bad cops out there? Yeah, there is, but they make up a very, very small percentage of the good men and women that serve and have served in law enforcement. But unfortunately, we're all painted by the same brush a lot. And when you don't have lack of support from the public, lack of support from their own agency, lack of support from coworkers, lack of support from the media, that's very, very difficult to be a cop. It's extremely difficult, and that is all going to affect your mental health wellness one way or another. It's going to affect it to no end. We saw what happened in 2020 with the you want to call them riots, uprisings, whatever you want to call them. Okay, those were very traumatic times for law enforcement. I'm not making any excuses for bad cops. No, I don't support cops that are bullies. I don't support cops that use excessive force. I don't support that belittle the public. I don't support that. I don't support that at all. But it's very difficult for the good cops to go to work and see what happened around the country, or work for a department that had a major incident, such as the George Floyd incident, or those very, very difficult times, and that does affect your mental health wellness. What I have seen through my career was a lot of departments are jumping on board now with mental health wellness, and that's huge. That's amazing. Back in the day, and I'm sure, Krista, you've heard this expression, quiet practice. There were good times. Don't get me wrong. There were great times. Have a couple of beers behind the police station and BS for a while and get it off your chest. Those were good times. Sure, absolutely, they were great times. But what were they really doing long term? Not much. You're self-medicating pretty much. Now I've seen departments starting with peer support units, with having mental health people on within their departments, which I think is really, really big. That's actually huge. Back in the day, you'd never would have heard of a mental health professional being part of a law enforcement agency for the officers. That was unheard of. So we're progressing. We're not where we should be by any means, but we are progressing. But one thing I have learned in my career was, when it came to suicide, is a lot of departments go in that denial phase. Now that will never happen at my agency, or they look down upon officers that died by suicide, or they have came out and said, "Hey, listen, I'm struggling with it. I'm struggling with this incident that happened the other night, or I'm struggling through the years of being a cop, the cumulative trauma." And but we have got a lot better with it. But again, in my personal opinion, I don't think we're at where we should be at. It's going to be a long and winding road. But we can do this. We really can.
I think so too.
Absolutely.
Yes, definitely. So you did mention that you're not on board with the bad cops and all of that stuff. That's part of your mission, right? With your organization, you actually do some trainings to help departments with de-escalation and some of that stuff.
Yes, yeah, we do. My organization is Protecting the Guardian. We're a great organization, very small. It's only 6 of us. But that's one thing we want to do is we want cops to we want them to de-escalate, not to have to go hands-on all the time. Now, don't get me wrong. There is a time you have to go hands-on. There's a time you have to deal with force, and that's by applying force. We get that. We understand that, and never should your officer's safety be jeopardized by any means, trying to talk your way through something, because there are times you have to go hands-on, or unfortunately pull the trigger. No cop wakes up. Now, first of all, there is a cop that wakes up and says, "Today's the day I'm going to kill somebody." That cop doesn't belong on the job. Absolutely not. Get rid of that person right away. But we're all about de-escalation. But to be a healthy cop, to deliver a healthy product for the public, and to do a healthy product for their agency, they have to be healthy physically and mentally. They have to be, the game has to be on. It has to really, really be on. So if you have an agency that doesn't recognize mental health illness, and they say that doesn't happen in our agency, or go get some help and let them know when you're better, and don't support their agencies, that officer is going to become very negative. And when a negative cop hits the streets, they're going to do negative things, unfortunately.
For sure. So how long have you been at your organization? How long have you been doing this?
We've been together. We've been in existence now for about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years. We started off with 4 members. We're up to 6 now. We have a mental health professional, Nick. He's a great guy. He's based out of Chicago. He's a mental health professional. We have Ron Clark. He is a retired Connecticut trooper, along with a registered nurse and a mental health professional. So Ron's got it going on. He really does. Love Ron. We have Therese. I worked with her dad. Unfortunately, her dad died by suicide 5 years after he retired. Treese and I've known Treese for 20 plus years. We have a new member of the organization. We call him New Nick because there's two Nicks. So we call him New Nick. He is a Arlington police officer, amazing guy. He's active military, and he's also a faith-based. I'm a Christian also. He's an ordained minister, which is amazing. And my favorite member, my wife, who's now on board with us also. So we're very proud of our organization. We're very small. We're not in it for the glamour. We're not in it to look at us, or anything like that. We're in it for the wellness of the officers, suicide prevention, and also with their families too, that show their families that we have their backs also.
So what services do you provide?
We provide peer support training. We provide spiritual training, faith-based training for law enforcement. We provide family training, for the family to understand the traumas of the job and to recognize when their loved one is struggling mentally. So we provide that type of training. We do a lot of presentations. Can be anywhere from an hour to 4 hours, even to 8 hours if you want. 8 hours is probably a little bit too long sometimes to hear one person talk. So ideally, we'd like to do between 2 and 4 hours. So we provide presentations at police conferences, at training. Whoever wants us, we're on board. We're never going to tell somebody no, we're not going to do it. And we're so diverse in our organization also. But that's the stuff that we offer. But more so, we want to let the officers know, again, it's okay not to be okay. It's understand that the warning signs of PTS, the warning signs of struggling with your job. And also, one thing we talk about also is about retirement, and prepare yourself for retirement, because retirement is life-changing. But prepare yourself for retirement, and also understand one thing also. Hey, listen, if the job's not for you anymore, if you honestly don't enjoy the job anymore, never be embarrassed by that. It's time to move on. So those type of trainings that we provide. But our training is very, very on a personal level. We're not textbook. We're not going to open up a book and say the left side of the brain says this, the right side of the brain says that, or anything. We have a very life experience, personal level. And I think that makes us unique from else. And the Protecting the Guardians alone, the name is so unique because our job is to protect our guardians from mental health illness, suicide prevention, traumas of the job. Will we ever prevent suicide? The 1 year there'll be no suicides in the first responder world? No, absolutely not. That's not feasible. But if we can put a dent in the numbers, that's one of our goals.
If we can at least get it close to the general population.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And understand also that as much as we're distanced as law enforcement, we're distant from the public because a lot of people don't understand what we do, but we are members of the public also. And cops do have feelings and do have emotions, do have families, do have trauma also. A lot of people vision cops as, they see the uniform and big tough guys and girls and nothing bothers them. We're only human like anybody else.
Absolutely. I love that you guys are including the families. It's something we run into a lot, is that the families, the spouses, don't necessarily understand requests for space. And that seems to be when the officer wants time and says, I need time, we're not going to argue right now. And the spouse is like, no, we're having this conversation. I'm pissed off. We need to do this.
Right.
So it's a little different than your everyday relationship, that when someone who has the levels of trauma that first responders do asks for space, it can mean much more than I just need to organize my thoughts. It can literally mean I am having a really hard time controlling my anger right now, and I'm going to lose my shit, literally. And you may be in danger if you don't give me the space I'm asking for. Like, I need time to reflect and connect and get myself together. So we have to set those parameters for safe conversation and safe argument, and make it so that both parties get the most out of the relationship possible. And it's without educating the spouses and children as well, that there are certain signals or certain phrases that we're going to set up. And when they're used, you have to back off. You have to give space because it's essential to your well-being and to your partner's well-being.
You nailed it. I don't even know how to follow that up. You literally nailed it. I couldn't say it any better myself, and I agree with you 100%. One thing I did fail with Krista, I'm sorry. One thing I did fail on was when I went through my struggles, is when my wife told me I needed to get help. I said to her, "You're not a cop. You don't understand this." And that, first of all, that was a big mistake that I made, because she was 100% right that I needed to get help. But I thought that she didn't understand the job, even though she was with me ever since I've been a cop. I mean, since 1985, she's been with me. And the whole time she's with me, I've always wore a uniform. And she'll say she understands the traumas of the job. She does, but I never thought that she really understood that because she wasn't a cop. So you nailed that perfectly. You need some alone time. Absolutely. You need time, some cooling off period. And I don't want to lose my shit right now. You said it perfectly. I agree.
And not one who usually swears, but sometimes you have to use the words that are appropriate for the time. So
absolutely, I agree. I try not to swear. I mean, being Italian from Boston, that's a challenge right there. So, I'm sure you watched The Godfather and The Sopranos. You know how we talk. So that's a huge challenge, and God's getting me through it. So,
well, you did mention that you are a man of faith.
Yes.
Has that always been true, or did you come to that later?
I came to that later, actually. I came in very late in my career, actually. I always believed in God. Don't get me wrong. I was raised actually a Catholic. Through my later part of my career, towards the last 2 or 3 years, I kind of changed my life around when it came to my faith. I started looking at more of a Christian way of looking at things. I found John 3:16, and I read that verse, and that was absolutely amazing. I'm not downplaying the Catholic religion by any means, but it didn't fit my comfort zone. And I went through a difficult time at work. I was on suspension when I accepted Jesus as my Savior, and but the last couple of years that turned my career around actually quite a bit, because I looked at things a little bit differently also as a Christian. And and my wife's a Christian also. She accepted Jesus also, and we love it. We love it. I never thought in my life I would go to a faith-based concert, because I'm into rock and roll. I love AC/DC and Journey and all that. I love that music. But I also love like Mercy Me, and I go to faith-based concerts all the time, and I rock out at the faith-based concerts, So it's just amazing. But God, and that's another thing also in your wellness plan, is if faith works for you. It doesn't necessarily work for everybody, unfortunately, but have faith and understand that God only gives you so much that you can handle. Now, that sounds a little overwhelming sometimes, and you put your hands, you go, could it get any worse? Well, yes, actually, it could get worse. Yeah, absolutely. And you have to put your belief into faith, and God leads you down a path for a reason.
A lot of people find faith when they hit rock bottom. So, I mean, we know that faith is a tool that we use often in recovery. So it gives people something. We need passion and purpose, and you have to have something to believe in. So whether that is yourself, your mission, your future, your faith, everybody needs something to believe in and to be passionate about. So it can be a very solid thing to lean on.
Right. And I agree. And when it comes to my faith, I don't ask God why anymore. I used to. Why is this happening to me? Why did this happen? Or not? Now I don't ask God why. I ask for God guidance, that get me through this and show me the path. Now, a lot of times you have to find a path on your own, but God's not leaving you hanging. He's not saying, okay, go walk down that path and I'll see you at the other end. That's not what he's doing. He's guiding you. And sometimes you go, okay, I really don't understand this. But in the long term, it works out really very, very, very well. And I just really, truly believe that I wish I found my faith probably at the start of my career, if not obviously my whole life. But I don't blame God for my misfortunes by any means. Literally, not by any means. And as you know, I've had 2 suicide attempts during my career, and that's rock bottom. that really is rock bottom. And I was pissed off at God. I was so upset with him that how you let this happen to me. And then the message I got from him was toughen up and let's get through this. And I don't mean toughen up in a bad way. Don't get me wrong when I say that, but we raised as a Catholic, we believe that suicide was damaging our soul, and you're not going to get into heaven. And that's what I believed, and that was a tough pill to swallow, also. But I've learned from my suicide attempts when I was active on the job that my childhood trauma and the traumas of the job and being and I really bothers me to say this, but I was bullied on the job also. I was bullied by bosses because I wasn't a yes man. I didn't tell them what they wanted to hear. I stood up for myself, and I stood up for the people that I led. I was a sergeant for 19 years, and I truly believe I led by example. I wasn't a supervisor; I was a leader, and that's it. I worked for several supervisors, but very few leaders. And I'm not gonna. Don't get me wrong. I'm not pushing my blame off on somebody else or anything like that. But I take full responsibility for the stupid things I said and did. And if looking back, I wish I could have probably toned it down a little bit sometimes and not be so rebellious. But I also learned from that also. And it's all about leadership, and it's all about, and God is a leader.
So I'm going to ask a really, really personal question, and it's absolutely okay to say, no, we're not going to talk about that. But because you have attempted suicide, in those moments before, those hours before, what was your reasoning? What was your why?
Well, it sounds really strange when I say this. I was working for a boss that was a very difficult boss. He was a bully. That's pretty much the only way of wording it. During the course of that time, he would belittle me. He would talk down to me, and one of the things he used to call me, and I want people to really hear this when I say this, is he used to call me precious. He used to call me his precious sergeant. My sexual abuser used to call me his precious little boy. That's a huge trigger right there. That provoked that gave me a lot of anger issues at that point. I mean, extreme anger issues at that point. A lot of times when I looked at that boss, I would think of my abuser right away, because he wore a uniform also, and that was a lot of trauma. So during this course of this time, also, I had a baby die in my arms. I was doing CPR on the baby, 4 months old baby. I could not bring the baby back to life. I was in the emergency room when the baby, when they pronounced the baby dead. That infuriated me. That caused me to have nightmares. Caused me obviously to have PTSD issues. The nightmares were literally brutal. I was having panic attacks. I was a very angry person. Weight gain, alcohol issues, self-medicating. And these are, but most of all, when I looked in the mirror, I saw a person that I never saw before. I saw this very angry, pissed off person, and I didn't like that person. But I'm like, man, that's just the way it is. That's the job. That's the way it is. But it was just weighing me down to the point where I couldn't go to work anymore. I would sit in my driveway, and we had take-home cruisers, and I would put my cruiser in drive, and I would sit there for a half an hour, shaking. I can't go to work. What's going to happen? I can't deal with this stuff anymore. And that affected my marriage also, because like I said earlier, when I said to my wife, you're not a cop, you don't get this. And that caused some marriage issues also. And the weight gain, and the appearance. And I became a micromanager at work, and I became very rebellious. So one night it hit me like a ton of bricks. That's the only way of wording it. I got a horrible evaluation to the point where I was looking at possible termination or demotion. And that really hit home again, because all my life I wanted to be a cop. So if you add this all up now, the childhood issues, the work issues, the marriage issues, the alcohol issues, the weight gain, the physical issues, the panic attack, I was not a healthy person by any means. And it got to the point where I started hearing voices. And it sounds really strange when I say it. The voices were telling me that I'm worthless, that I'm a POS, that you don't deserve to be on this earth anymore. I felt that people were belittling me, laughing at me. And these are all, so I Googled all these issues, and PTSD came up, and I'm like, I never spent a day in the military. There is absolutely no way. Well, here's the denial factor also that this is happening to me. So I ended up writing a suicide note, a 2-page note. One was to my agency, the first side, and the other side was to my wife. And I literally put the gun in my mouth and was going to squeeze the trigger when I was talked. And then the cop pulled down next to me and talked me down. Thank God he did. He saved my life. Craig McGee. He has since passed away. I love Craig. His nickname was the Whopper. I love the Whopper. And but when I went home that night, I went home early that night. I got the suicide thoughts again. It put the gun back in my mouth the second time. Now I'm going to talk about this for 1 second. The Lord works in mysterious ways. When I had the second suicide attempt on the same night, when I had the gun in my mouth the same night, I was sitting by my pool and I had some music playing, and I put a CD in. For younger people, CD's a round thing that plays music. So I put that in my CD player, and I hit shuffle, and the song that came on was "Even the Nights Are Better," which was my wedding song to my wife. I hit shuffle again. It came the same song again. Hit it the third time. I'm like, okay, this is a little weird, for lack of a better word. And I said, I need to get help. I can't. So I took the gun out of my mouth and I said to myself, the trauma I'm going to leave behind to my wife, to my family. And if I could back up for 1 second also, I called dispatch the night of my suicide attempt and asked who the on-call homicide detective was. And it was a very good friend of mine. So I knew I'd give her trauma and I'd give the guys and girls at work trauma. So I realized that I've got to get help. And I went back to Boston and got help. And it was a tough road. It really was. I came back to work very angry. I came back with a reputation that I had a screw loose. I heard that several times. I will never go into a gun battle with you because I'm afraid that you're not going to react. I was called a coward. And again, I'm not saying this for pity. Not by any means am I saying this for pity, by any means. But that was very tough to deal with. So then I thought to myself on my recovery phase, I had to go find a therapist. I found a therapist. She's a retired cop. Still see her. She's absolutely amazing. I was open to medication, and but more so I was open to get life back on track and get my marriage back on track. And I knew my wife had my back, so I put her back into my life as a resource, if that makes any sense. Definitely. And she was a huge resource to me. She really, really, really was. And there's plenty of times she literally held me while I cried myself to sleep, while I shook, while I had panic attacks. And I'm going to sound a little sexist when I say that, but sometimes the male ego doesn't accept that too well. Men don't cry. We actually do cry. We actually do cry quite a bit, actually. And so I tried to turn it around. I was not successful at first because I spoke very angry and belittled my agency. Then I learned through time that, listen, I'm not the only cop that ever felt like this. Normally, by nature, I'm a funny person. I like to laugh and joke. Let me throw some humor in there. Let me make fun of myself a little bit. And it's turned around 100%. Now my goal is for anybody, not just first responders, not just cops or anybody, for anybody that struggles to, hey, listen, you got this. You really, really have this. But the only way to get healthy mentally is to take it and say, I got to do this for myself and I got to do it for my family. And that was tough to do, but not bragging, I've been pretty successful with it.
We've got a couple comments. This one we missed a little bit ago. So you got, I love Nick Greco, great guy.
Nick probably wrote that himself.
No, Eric wrote that.
Okay, Eric, we love Nick also.
Marshall Lord says internal bullies can be worse than bad guys on the street. Absolutely.
Amen, my brother. Absolutely.
Eric S says all of my stress has been from administrative stuff. We hear that a lot, actually. And then Marshall comes back with the general public has no idea how nasty and corrupt admin can be.
Marshall's right. And so was the other person. I forgot his name and I apologize. Internal stress is huge. It absolutely is. Now, let me say this. Not all administrators are bad. Please don't take that the way. I'm not here to badmouth administrators or anything like that. I have worked with some great administrators. I've met some great administrators, but I do understand the trauma of when you feel that your agency doesn't support you. And I felt that my agency didn't support me with my endeavors. Now, granted, I didn't do things the way they should have been done. I get that, and I take responsibility for that. But I thought with the brotherhood, the thin blue line, I thought it'd be just a little bit differently than it was. If I was injured physically on the job, that would have been a whole different story. And I'm not taking anything away from our brothers and sisters that have been injured physically. That's traumatic also. But mental health illness takes us to another notch. And when the departments don't support their officers that are struggling, and I've seen that, unfortunately, that's bad. That's really, really bad. So I understand the frustration and the bad blood towards administration, unfortunately.
And every organization is so different.
It is
so very, very different. And some personalities are going to do better in some organizations than others. So the organization that like you might not like might work really well for another personality. So it's always kind of hard.
It is. It's twofold. Yeah, I mean, it's almost damned if you do, damned if you don't. And I've worked with people in my they have said, hey, I work for the greatest agency ever. I have zero stress. They support me. More power to you. That is absolutely amazing. And I've talked to other officers who say, listen, I've been screwed royally by my agency, and that sucks. That really sucks. So I've seen both sides of the coin, and it's very difficult. But the bottom line is the brotherhood and the sisterhood. We've got to take care of each other better than we do. Much better than we do.
Absolutely. Definitely need to stop bullying each other.
Right.
In our darkest moments.
Right. Yeah. You know, who wants to go to work miserable? Yeah. You know, who wants to go into work and say, oh my God, I have to do 12 hours of this BS. And if I do something wrong, my agency's not going to back me. Or instead of looking for something bad, let's look at something good also. And I'm going to give you an example of that, if you don't mind. We started with body cameras. Supervisors had to watch the body cameras and make sure that there was no wrongdoing, which is fine. I get that. But we also should be watching those body cameras for the good doing also. And let's commend our officers that are going above and beyond, or hey, are just doing the right thing for the public and doing the right thing for their agencies. But unfortunately, sometimes the bad outweighs the good sometimes.
I miss the good old days when we did the whole management was taught, you always do a sandwich. If you're going to tell them about something bad they did, you have to do something good, then do the bad, then do something good.
Right. One thing, you know, Krista, one thing I struggled with is when it came to discipline was I got this line a couple of times. Hey, you didn't do anything wrong, but... Well, we could probably end that right at you didn't do anything wrong. So, and I understand we're in a different time now and all that, but we have to commend our officers for doing a good job. Absolutely. It may not look like maybe they didn't go above and beyond. They just did their job. But yeah, everybody needs a pat on the back every once in a while. Absolutely. And it's not us against them. That's we should work as a team with the public, the team with our brothers and sisters, and the team with our administration. Now, I get we're not everybody's not going to get along. It's not the Brady Bunch where everybody got along, not by any means. But we should do a little bit better, much better actually.
Well, even society-wide, the us versus them thing that everyone's doing between racial, between religion, between economic status, like literally we've got all these dividing lines. But the bottom line is it's not us versus them. We're all us. We're all literally them. So we can't do that. I mean, the manager is you. There is no real difference. So we're really just hating ourselves when we're doing this. And it's damaging.
It's totally damaging. It's damaging mentally and physically, because as we know, when you're damaged mentally, that leads to physical ailments also. Like I said earlier, weight gain, chest pain, diabetes. These are all things that stress initiates in the physical being of somebody also. Lack of sleep. That's absolutely huge in the first responder world. First responders aren't getting the sleep. Now think about being a firefighter for a second. You work a 24-hour shift and you work at a busy house. And you may get 2 hours of sleep here, between calls, 2 hours there. Now plus 30 years of doing that, that's difficult. in the cop world, working 12-hour shifts, going to court the next morning after you worked all night, going to work an overtime shift, staying late, coming in early. Those are all not healthy. And somebody said to me one time, well, that's what you signed up for. No, that's not what we signed up for. We signed up to do the right thing. Now, does that come with it? Unfortunately, yes, it does. But we've got to learn. People have to learn the trauma of the job, mentally and physically.
Yeah, in the ER we did 16s, and it was not uncommon to do doubles. So you do 2 16s in a row, and then you'd have 8 hours off.
And then try squeezing your personal life during that also.
Yeah. Right. For another double 16.
Right. Hey, the money's good. Don't get me wrong. With all that overtime and stuff. Yeah, but money's not everything. Yeah, but 16 hours working continuously, 16 hours. That's got trauma written all over that, and the fatigue issue that goes with it too. Where I'm sure you had some downtime where you let me sit down for a minute, let me catch my breath, and all of a sudden here comes another patient, and you're like, oh yeah, I don't even have time to have a sip of water. Yeah, that's not good. That's not healthy.
Well, and do you guys actually get a real lunch break? And that whole everybody needs 15 minutes every 4 hours. It's not part of the job.
No, it's just like the ER. Now the ER, you're not going to go to a restaurant, but you run down to the cafeteria. We'll just use that as an example. You run down the cafeteria, and as you're getting your sandwich, you're getting paged. There's a code in the ER, or there's something going on in the ER. What are you doing? You're dropping whatever you're doing, and you're going back there. As a cop, you go to sit down at a restaurant. Oh, great! Here's that great cheeseburger I've been craving, and all of a sudden you get an emergency call. Well, goodbye cheeseburger, and let's. I'm using a cheeseburger as an example, but no, again, it's not healthy. Then you start eating junk food, and you start going through drive-throughs or whatever. Not healthy by any means.
So, what steps did you take? I know you mentioned that you started seeing a therapist, but what things helped you get on track?
Well, one of the things was accepting responsibility. That was huge. Understanding that my anger is not going to get me anywhere. If anything, it's going to get me people to dislike me, and I don't want to be disliked. So anger management was huge because I was very on the defensive. I raised my voice quite a bit. I had a lot of WTF moments, so realizing my anger control. But one thing I really realized was there's things in your life that you can't control. You just can't. But all you can do, instead of being part of the problem, here's an idea: be part of the solution of that, and to be a little more open-minded. And to start looking at both sides of the coin instead of one side of the coin, not making it all about you. And one thing in my wellness was being open to medication. If you told me years ago that I'd have to take a sleeping pill to go to sleep, I'm like, no way whatsoever am I going to do that. No. Or I'm going to need a mental health pill to take the edge off, to have me calm down. That was I struggled with that at first. But now I'm very open to medication, absolutely. And through my retirement now, the medication has lessened because there's a lot of stress that's now gone in my life. But what I think was to be a positive person, and to realize that not everybody thinks like you, not everybody has the same beliefs as you, but you don't have to be nasty about it because they don't believe you. Whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or whatever, there's no reason to be nasty to everybody if they don't agree with something that you say. There's no reason at all to be nasty about that. And respect other people's opinions, whether you agree with them or disagree with them. But understand also that the only person that can make you better is you. And you have to learn from your mistakes. Christian, I could write the book on mistakes. Unfortunately. But I look back now and I say, yeah, that was pretty dumb. Or that was probably not the smartest thing to say, or that was not the smartest thing to do. But now I've learned also that I get my energy from my hardships in life. I get my energy from when I was at the worst point in my life, that I said I can't go on any further. But then something led me to get help, and now to learn from that and to take my pain that I experienced and make my pain into wellness, and to show people that, okay, yeah, we got this. We can get through this. And again, it's really difficult as in law enforcement, really different. We're control freaks. You know, you go to a domestic violence call, you go to a traffic stop. Who's in charge? We are. You know, but sometimes we're not. Unfortunately, we're not in charge of our lives, and we have to understand that shit happens. You know, that's the only way of wording it. I'm not downplaying it by any means. I'm not trying to make light of it or anything like that. But learn from your mistakes and learn to move on. And be honest with you, let the past go a little bit also. That's very difficult. That's extremely difficult, but it can be done. We're going to carry baggage the rest of our lives. Absolutely. There's not a person in this world that's not carrying baggage. But if we dwell on that baggage all the time, we're not going to get any better. You know, give me an example. You go to the airport and your plane's delayed an hour. And I see people going, oh my God, my plane's delayed an hour, on and on and on. You know what I do? I'm like, whatever, you know, whatever. I put my music on, go have a beer, just chill out. I was that person at one time. I can't believe this happened. I can't believe this, but it's not my control. It's totally not in my control. There's nothing I can do. You don't want me flying your plane. You know, that's what the pilots are for. You know, and understand also that when it comes to physical illness, I have some medical issues that I'm not happy about, but I have to take my medication for it. I try to live a healthy lifestyle, mentally and physically, and it can be done. It can be done. But it's extremely difficult.
Got our guys down here talking to us. So we have Thomas again says, we learn starting in the academy to take care of everyone else's problems, and we don't learn how to take care of ourselves. We have to remember that we must care for ourselves first. And then we've got Eric says, amen, Thomas.
Can I get an amen, right? Yeah. so yeah. And Tom, you know, Tom's a great friend of mine, and he's actually one of my mentors. And I reached out to Tom when I struggled, and Tom took me down the path. One thing Tom said to me, Tom, and I think you'll remember this when you said this, when I was talking to him, he said, I'm not going to baby you, Mark. I'm going to guide you. I'm not going to baby you. Did I want to be babied? Yeah, I probably did to a point. Sure. Absolutely. I wanted to be babied a little bit. And Tom nailed it. Absolutely.
I think as helpers on this side now, doing what you're doing, the hardest part for us, the hardest part for me, I know, is that moment when you know someone's not quite ready and you know they're not going to reach out for help, but you know you can help them if they just say the word. You have that like, oh, if you just realize that you just have to decide to do this for yourself.
Right.
So close. You're so close. What is it going to take to get you there?
Right.
Do it for them.
You have to. Yeah, I just had somebody reach out to me a while ago. They sent me a message on Facebook, and they said, I'm going to try and find the time to reach out to you and talk to you about an issue I'm going through. And it went on for like 2 paragraphs. And I'm reading it, and I'm okay. And I gave this line back to him: take time to make time to take time. And if you took the time to write these 2 paragraphs, you have time to talk to me. And my phone rang literally 10 seconds later. And we had a great conversation. Absolutely. Had great conversation. Self-awareness is huge. Stop making excuses. Stop, no, they don't care, or, poor me, or nobody gets it. Every struggle that you entail in life, somebody else has struggled with that same thing. They have. Now it could be huge in their life, or it could be very minor in their life. Extreme incidents versus minor incidents. But the bottom line is everything that you've experienced in life, somebody else has experienced that also. So me and you, Krista, we have to expand our life experiences to other people and say, yeah, I get this. I really get this. Now, what may work for me may not work for you, or vice versa. And I think you said that earlier. But the common goal is to get on the right path and surround yourself with people that get it, that really get it. Yep. Get that negative people out of your life. Yeah, I was that negative person. I say this all the time in my presentations. You ever drive down the street, you see 2 cop cars parked car to car, and I say, what do you think they're talking about? Oh, they're talking about the robbery at the end of the street. They're talking about this. No, we're pissed off about this. We're pissed off at our bosses. We're pissed off about the money we're making. It's a complete bitch session, for lack of a better word, but don't focus on the negativity, focus on the positivity. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. There really, really is. I wish I learned that years ago, to be honest with you.
And try. That word try, that is the maybe your parents gave you in the 80s. Try always means no. You just don't want to admit to yourself that that's what you mean.
Right, right. Yeah. And understand also that, things do bad things happen to good people. They do. They totally do. But you nailed it once again. Try. Let's try. Like the expression goes, work with me, people. Work with me. Yeah, and that's what you got to do. Now, it's not going to happen overnight. Absolutely not. Nobody's going to wave a magic wand and say, okay, now you feel better. Let's move on from that. No, that's not going to happen. But like I said earlier, learn from your mistakes and don't be a victim. And I know that sounds cold to say that, but victims can survive traumatic events. Absolutely, they can.
Absolutely. So before we close today, it's been amazing having you here. What is the last thing you want to tell everybody?
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to thank you. First of all, thank you so much, and thank you to everybody who's taking the time to watch us. That's truly amazing, and I think it's lessons learned. That's what I want to say. Understand that suicide is not the answer. Okay, suicide is not about dying; it's about stopping the pain. When I put the gun in my mouth that night, both times that night, it was very calming, extremely calming, actually. But that was not the answer. I had to find that strength somewhere. To this day, I still question where I found it sometimes, where I found the strength to get better. And my goal, and everybody that's listening, the goal is through the toughest times, there's going to be a good time. There are truly people that care about you. There really, really is. Think about the trauma that you're going to leave behind if you do decide to die by suicide. Okay, we don't want that. We don't want that at all. It's baby steps in life. Life throws you a curveball. Sometimes you get hit by the pitch. Another example is this. You go up to play baseball. You go up to the bat. The bases are loaded. You want to hit a grand slam. You want that to go over. You want those 4 runs to come in. But guess what? You got hit by the pitch. You took one for the team. That's what you did. Now you're on first base and a run came in. Now what's your goal is to get to second base. So it's okay to hurt. It's okay to cry. It's okay to struggle. That comes with life. But you can't let that obsess you and just sit there and go, poor me, poor me. No, not at all, actually. Move on. Do things in life that make you happy. Giving you an example, my long hair. Like I said earlier, that makes me happy. Music makes me happy. My wife makes me happy. My faith makes me happy. Talking about this makes me extremely happy, actually. This is therapeutic for me. I love doing this. It's such a good feeling. So again, but also learn from other people's mistakes too. And don't be that pissed off person all the time. Please don't. I think that's it. I hope.
Thank you so much for being here tonight. It was such a pleasure to get to know you and to hear your story.
Can I give a shout out to somebody? I know he's watching. Can I give that to somebody? My buddy Paul. My buddy Paul. He's a first responder also. We've been friends for 40 plus years. And he introduced me, him and his wife introduced me to my wife. My wife and his wife are best friends, and he's my best friend. And he sent me a message. He's going to watch this tonight. Paul, I love you, brother. And all my friends that are watching, I love you guys. I get my strength from you guys. And remember, people, it's okay not to be okay. We got this. We truly got this.
Thank you so much.
You're very, very welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Have a great night.
You too. Thank you so much, and God bless.
All right, you guys. Don't forget that you can support this podcast if you love what we're doing and you want to keep hearing these stories. There is a button, if you're watching us on Anchor, that says support this podcast. If you want to support our organization, battle2be.org, just hop on over to our website and you can access Mark, or you can get to know more about his organization as well Again, he is co-founder of Protecting the Guardian. And I know how easy he is to find online, so just put that in your Google bar and you'll get right there and you can find out all about what he is up to with his crew. So thank you guys so much for being here tonight, and I'll see you again on Thursday. See you later.